Hi, you guys. I'm a little raggedy. Had to hit the floor running. So I just wanted to get on here because I have, maybe I should do a recap on my family, my background, how we all, oh, my dog is like spinning. He's like, oh crap, one of these again. Okay, Dad, I'm sorry. I won't be along. So half my family was raised with my dad. I didn't grow up with them or my dad. And then half of us were with my mother. Even so, even though the other half was raised with my dad and my stepmother from the ages of maybe, say, 5, 6, and 7. So they were old enough. I was a year and a half. They were old enough when the divorce happened. They knew my mother well enough. I was 1 and a half. I didn't know my dad very well. My other older sister is almost 2 years older. She was then what, 3, if she's almost 2 years older than I am. And she didn't remember much about my dad either, but she would bounce. So then the other three are 2 years apart. So she was 3, they'd be 5, 6, and 7. Yeah. So the 5, 6, and 7 year old, the oldest, 3 oldest that went with my dad, they remembered my mother. The two of us younger ones of the 5 stayed with my mother. So anyway, when Daddy remarried, she was Catholic. She's Polish. I think she's 100% Polish immigrant from Poland. Her parents would visit, and from whatever state they migrated to, I don't know if they spoke Polish. I'm not sure if it was first generation or what. So anyway, they were Catholic. And so Daddy and his he and Mommy's 3 kids and her 7, which only 2 of her 7 lived with her because the other 5 had gotten older and left home. She had been married for I don't know how long. It was an abusive marriage. And the 2 younger of her 7, she is 7 years older than my dad. She's gone now. She was an alcoholic, but my mother was as well for some time. But so my mother and dad, when they were married, they never drank and they never smoked. They weren't Christians as far as going to church, but I've told you the history of my mother's parents and so forth, and my dad's. But they never smoked or drank. And but my mother's father was an alcoholic, so she decided to become one like he was after the divorce. Well, not really after the divorce. She met my half sister's dad who drank beer, and she acquired the taste for beer. So it was never hard liquor, but her dad was on hard liquor. Well, so the stepmother is Catholic. So those 3 of my older siblings were raised Catholic until they just stopped going at whatever age that was. But they were all kind of nominal, and they probably didn't even know what they were doing. And they were older children, so they didn't get sprinkled, right, as babies. And I don't know if they went to that thing that the kids have to go through to become a Catholic. Anyway, so my half sister is my mother's child with her dad. So, of course, I grew up with her, and I grew up with my other sister who is a little older. But we all found Christ at different ages and different denominations without my mother going. My mother never went to church. We were on our own, you know. We were kind of raising ourselves anyway, as it was, because she was just in love with my dad till for like she didn't even remarry till I was 21, and even that marriage she stayed for 13 years until he died. And but I mean, she just loved my dad. I'm sure there was a time when she gave up that he would never divorce and come back to her. But anyway, she was a single mother, yes, raising us 3. So we all 3. Now, when I moved to Texas, when my mother married the man after 21 years, she met him in Oklahoma because he is from New York, but he got afraid when something happened at Whataburger. Somebody had filled one of the salt shakers with LSD. So he got afraid to raise his family. Maybe he's from New York, but he didn't raise his kids in New York. I think he moved to somewhere else. And so he got afraid and he moved to a small town in Oklahoma to raise his family. Well, when he got a divorce, he would come to Oklahoma and visit his younger son. And my mother and he and my mother met at a bar. So they ended up, but he lived in Texas. So we all ended up moving to Texas when I was like 20. And they got married. Then, and he's Catholic background, but he never went. Now, so back to my siblings. When we moved to Texas, my mother, my little sister, my other sister was already gone and married. We were raised in Oklahoma, not born there, but she met a man, got married. She's still married today with him, 3 kids, very nice, successful family. So my little sister and I and my mother moved to Texas. And I had already spent some summers with my dad in Virginia with my 3 older siblings. Once when I was 15, I got to know them. And then another time at 18, and I got to know them. Well, when I moved to Texas with my mother and my stepdad, I talked to my older 2 siblings because the oldest was already married, and she's still married today. They have 3 children, and they're all married and, everything. So my oldest is still married, oldest sister. She stayed in Virginia, which is where Daddy raised those kids. Then I called them and I said, hey, to my brother, my older brother, and my other older sister, not my oldest, I said, hey, come to Texas. There is a lot of opportunity here. It was the Metroplex, Arlington, Texas. You got Dallas, you got Fort Worth. It's a big city. I'm from a small town, raised in Oklahoma. Even though I was born in North Carolina, I wasn't raised there. So anyway, they were, say, I was 20. So the one sister is 4 years older. She was 24. And my brother is a year older than she is. So he was 25. So at 24 and 25, they still are nominal Catholic. They don't even know what they are. They don't claim Catholicism that I know of. Even my eldest sister, who got married and stayed in Virginia, she never stayed a Catholic. She went off to college, met her husband, who was a Christian. Imagine that, meeting a Christian in college, converted her away from Catholicism. And they became, and now they're Christians. They're not that a Catholic isn't a Christian. I know I keep saying it that way, like I don't believe Catholics are Christians, but I don't know. Anyway, so my oldest sister met that guy in college who was a Christian. She became a Christian that way, and they're married now still today. So my older brother, who is a year younger than she is, and then my older sister, who is a year younger than he is, they came to Texas. They didn't know Christ. So my little sister and my older brother hung out together. And they didn't really ever know each other because, see, my little sister is my half-sister, different father. She never got to visit my dad and meet her older half-siblings. So when the one that wasn't married stayed in Virginia, the 2 other older siblings, I'll just say their names, Bill and Dee Dee. So when Bill and Dee Dee came to Texas to live, Susie got to know Susie, my youngest half-sister, got to know those 2 who were not Christians. Even Susie herself was not a Christian yet. So Susie is 4 years younger than I am. If I was 20 and Susie's 4 years younger, she was 16. Yeah, she still had like some high school left. So she's 16. Bill is 24. Or what I say, 25, and Dee Dee's 24. So Susie and Bill were having fun. They were getting along. They were, hanging out and getting to know each other. They eventually moved out and got their own apartments because they're older, 24 and 25. Susie, when I ended up moving in with a guy that I eventually married, my first husband, Susie came to live with us, and we were all kind of like that. But we still hung out with Dee Dee and Bill. Anyway, somehow I found religion. Not I found Christ at 10 years old, but I fell away at 18. So I'm 20 now, and 21 and 22 and getting older. When Susie's living with me and my future husband, she finds Christ because she's out partying in Deep Ellum. She was goth. She went to Deep Ellum over in Dallas. It's a goth type of party area. My older brother, he is so not goth. He's like, I'm not a hillbilly. I'm not a redneck. I'm not a something something. I'm not a redneck. I'm a hillbilly. He was a very country boy, not farmish, but shooting up guns and stirring up trouble, a fighter. He was crazy. But he would go ahead and hang out with my younger sister in the goth and party a little bit. I think sometimes they would go to Fort Worth, which is very country, and he would kind of party like that over there. Well, they found religion partying because there was some street preachers in Fort Worth, and they're still there today, I think, from this church, if they still go. No, this church moved away. But because this church started that, other churches would come and do street preaching in the downtown Fort Worth. So Susie and Bill are out partying, and they find these street preachers. They become Christians. The street preaching ministry is called Heavenly Metal Ministries. And this is, now my brother, even though he was country, he was listening to death metal. Okay, death metal. What is it? Bat Out of Hell. Not Led Zeppelin. I used to kind of listen to it. I'm like, hey, Bill, this isn't so bad, because I never listened to heavy metal when I was growing up. It was only Christian. It was really death metal. You would know the band if I named them, but I can't remember them now. Worse than AC/DC probably. And he was listening to that stuff. So this church, street preaching on the corner there in Fort Worth by the theater, they're called Heavenly Metal Ministries, and they looked like my brother and my little sister, who was goth, but my brother, jeans and normal clothing, was a heavy metal listener. So these heavy metal ministry people with the dog collars and the spiked hair and the piercings and the leather and the crazy rock and roll look appealed to them, appealed to my little sister and my older brother. And they, like, okay, I'll accept Christ. I'm going to come to your church. They started going to the church, and they continued in the church, and the church was all their same age. My little sister back then was, by then, maybe at a high school by then. And the church was more like her age. My brother was a little older, but all the members were about the same age. They were my little sister's age. They were about 20 to 23, 20 something. Then they might have had the elders, actually. No, the elders of that church only were the pastor's parents. So the pastor himself was young, and his parents basically would go as well, okay? And all these people married each other. So you got this girl decides to join, so she marries this guy. This girl decides, or that guy decides to join, he marries this girl. Then you got some spinster decides to join who has a little daughter, and then the daughter ends up marrying one of the little boys there, stuff. It was a tiny, tight-knit. They grew, they evolved from heavy metal. They kept studying the Bible, and they kept seeing how you shouldn't dress like that, you shouldn't act like that, you shouldn't listen to that, you shouldn't do this and do that. So they started cleaning it up. Let's not look like we're part of the world. Let's be ye separate. And I think they started examining other religions like holiness, Quakers, Amish, um, Pentecostals. They didn't do the Pentecostal thing, but holiness and Pentecostal, where they wear the 3/4 length sleeves and the skirts below the knee, and they don't wear makeup, they don't cut their hair, they don't, watch TV, they just read the newspaper. Okay, so they were examining those things and they adopted from all that. And they became very strict and very oppressed. And then there came a time where they stopped having elders at all. Like the parents were still going, but they had no more deacon. They had no more associate pastor. There's a system to a church where it keeps the pastor in line, accountable, right? It keeps them accountable. Well, I think some people had left, some people had this and that, and they lost some of their elders in that aspect, that definition of elders. So it was just the pastor. No accountability. And I think they kept trying to appoint new ones, but they never stayed or they never stuck. And nobody was stepping up to say, I'll be it. So the pastor then, and even the congregation was saying this. They're like, no, you have nobody to keep you accountable besides us. See, they were all knowledgeable, all learning the same things at the same time. They all knew the same things. And they were teaching each other and letting a few in to teach them before YouTube. So then it just turned out that the pastor remained the head, had no accountability, and the congregants just kind of went with it. So this went on for my little sister was married for 24 years while going to this church. They left the church because the church split. My older brother left the church after a few years. My other older sister, who's 4 years older, my older sister, who's 2 years older, she got married at 18. She stayed in Oklahoma, and she's still married today. But Virginia, my older sister, so Dee Dee and Bill, Dee Dee went for a little while, but she got married and moved away. And I don't think she met her husband there. But Bill, my older brother, he got married as well, and they stayed there and for many years. But he started disagreeing with the syncopated music that they were using because they came away from rock music, acid music. So they wanted it bare bones, almost a cappella, just a tambourine, some microphones, and maybe a dulcimer, a piano. So no guitar, no electric, no drums. And my older brother Bill, got upset that they wouldn't get rid of the drums. He said it's syncopated music and it's wicked. And he's the one where he was married as well for 25 years. No, 13, I don't know. His wife left him because he became too extreme. He would make them wear head coverings, and she went along for a while. But then come dinner time, it's time to say grace. The girls and their kids would just grab a napkin and put it over their head. And they were just getting sick of it. Then, because they were raised in it. Born and raised in that church. But they weren't used to, plus they had left the church because my brother left it because of the syncopated music. They wouldn't get rid of the drums. Then, so he went off on his own and went kind of extreme. I don't know what he's doing today. He's probably still extreme. So then she left him. My other older sister, Dee Dee, who went to that church for a little while, then got married and moved away with her husband. And then even my younger sister, who was there the longest, was married 25 years. My other older sister was married 25 years. Both of them, okay, so my little sister, they moved away. They were married and everything, had their child raised in the church. So the I'm sorry, this is getting too long. Um, it doesn't really matter. My whole point is I'm kind of shocked. I'm kind of shocked because there's a channel I don't always watch, but I like it. If I ever wanted to watch it, it's there because he's explaining why the King James Version, which, by the way, this church was King James only, and he explains this channel I watch. I love it. I trust this guy. This guy has amazing insights about the King James Version. He will pick this King James Version apart and prove to you why it is the divine version, unadulterated, of God. He proves it. He seems young, but I don't think he's young because he's got kids that aren't that young. But he don't let his looks fool you like he's some kid wet behind the ears. He knows this King James Bible. And if you see any of his older videos, they do not have guests on them. Guests. I think he has guests now toward the end, which I haven't seen any of his older videos. But today I decided, let me listen. One of the guests in his panel is that preacher that I'm telling you about. My little sister group went there, Heavenly Metal Ministries. My brother and my other older sister for a little while. My older brother raised his kids in that church, and my younger sister raised her son in that church. It split like, first they moved away, all of them together, to some state. And they were there in that state for a while on a bunch of property because they believe in the rapture and they believe in getting left behind if you're not good. And so they live off the land. I've told you about them before. They know how to do everything. They know how to live off the land. They know how to build a house. They know how to... So all their women know how to do everything. They can fix a stove, a microwave. They can lay a floor. They can put plumbing in. I mean, these women are incredible. They taught themselves all this. They can farm. They can make a candle, make some soap. They can weave fabric. They can sew. They can grind the wheat at the mill, so to speak, and make bread out of it. I'm not kidding. They know how to make oil. They just, because they're afraid if they're left behind, they will have to know these things. But they don't understand that there's no hiding. There's Google satellite, y'all. They're going to find you off-gridders, and they're going to get you. I don't know why you people don't think of this stuff. Anyway, one of his guests is that pastor. Now, that pastor's going to tell his side of the story, I understand. And I'm not going to tell you which one of them guys is this pastor that I bring up. I'm just bringing this up because this is why I don't like division amongst the body when there are so many of us that have different gifts. But yet that pastor wants to point the finger at these other pastors on TBN or such, or K-Love, these singers. You know, he was never a Christian under preachers like that. He came from being a headbanger to a legalist all by himself. He never sat up under any of these. He doesn't know. I was raised up under a normal preacher, okay? I think his name was Purrit or something over there in Oklahoma. You know, I didn't get whatever. So all I'm saying is this channel I like, he might not know about that preacher and why the church separated. And I'm not going to tell you which one the guy is, but I'm just saying that I know he tells his side of the story, and oh, poor pitiful me, my wife left me and split up my church and everything, because half went with her, because she was also the teacher of the women. She was the pastor's wife, so she taught the women. And anyway, But I know this side because my little sister is best friends with the wife till still to this day. Still to this day. A lot because they all grew up together, y'all. They were in their 20s. So when the church split, the ones that so my little sister, her husband ended up leaving her, and that's a crazy story. Maybe I'll tell you guys one day. But he cheated on her after they had left the church. They had been away from the church for a few years because it was a church split. He cheated on her. I will tell you that story. It is so crazy. But she is remarried now, yes, and she isn't, unfortunately, going to church. Her new husband, I don't think, is a Christian, but she's still to this day in touch with a lot of the members that split on the wife's side who did also remarry. And okay, so even though this side eventually might have, you know, maybe fallen away, uh, some are, some aren't. You know, she knows quite a few of them. They hang out, they're friends, even if they're not in states. They have vacations together where they'll get together. Some of these might have sat under other pastors that were normal. And maybe some of these did know Christ without the legalism. But maybe all of these have only known legalism. Maybe that's all they grew up with at 20 years old. See, I knew Christ at 10. I had a lot of schooling for 8 years, 10 to 18. These people, I think they went from headbanging older adult or older, like younger adults, 20s, never had any history of Bible or Christianity. And they went and learned it themselves and went all the way other end. So I don't know if this guy's channel knows about that one in the I know he knows him. He has to. Otherwise he wouldn't have him on his channel. But he probably doesn't know the whole story. He doesn't know the wife's side. The wife, and I've gone to that church, don't forget, because my siblings were going. I would visit when I have nieces and nephews that grew up there. They would have little shindigs for the graduation of homeschool. My mother and I would go for those graduations. He knows me. He knows us all. But I don't think that channel guy, he knows all those people on his guest panel, but I don't think he knows that side of the wife, because when his wife came out and said, I'm not going to tell you what he was doing, but he wasn't treating her right. He was being a legalist to her. Okay, I'll tell you. No, I'm not going to tell you anything. There's nothing grotesque, but they're just very horrible, mean, cruel, nothing like beating and nothing immoral, but degrading, very degrading punishment type things. And she's not a liar. She doesn't lie. Even after she left, and they have like 8 kids or 8. I think they wanted 8. But she had so many miscarriages in between that they stopped at a certain number, I think 5, because they said 3 of them are in heaven. So we have our 8. But they have so when she left with the kids, and then he planted cameras in the yard. I don't know. He didn't use lawyers, I don't think. So anyway, I'm just saying that and I know there are a lot of pastors on the television who have fallen from, they're fallen, right? They did their affairs and whatnot. So, Benny's not snoring. I think he's upset. I'm just saying, I don't like a house divided against itself will not stand. Legalism is division. Freedom in Christ with TBN and stuff, you can have your legalism. That's okay. I am not problem. I'm not bothered by that. If you want to follow the word by the letter and be very strict, I have no problem with that. Where I have a problem is when you put others down. Okay, like I would go to that church just to, and one time out of the funny farm I went because my little sister's like, come on, you need to, you know. But I dressed, there was a time I dressed like Dolly Parton. Yeah, I wouldn't have dressed like that at church. So when I go to church, I dressed up. I wore very nice clothes. I dressed to the nines from the thrift store. It was all cheap clothes, but I just know how to put clothes together. And I know how to pick out quality clothes at the thrift store and put them together. And I look like $1,000,000, okay? And I would do my hair and makeup. And one time, after doing that for a month, I would go with my little sister. And I even told her before I went, I said, Susie, I'm going to go with you, but I'm going to sit by you. I'm going to sit by you. And if one word comes out of that man's mouth, I'm scared. Because I was already suffering with a little bit with more anxiety still. And I knew that preacher was hardcore. And get this, so after about a month, from the pulpit, he says, he wasn't pointing at me, but he was talking about me, and everybody knew he was talking about me. He said, you come in here, or some people come in here, or whatever come in here, looking like you're walking off the pages of Cosmopolitan magazine. And I was like, I'm out. I'm out, Susie. He's scary. He is off his rocker. There's nothing wrong with dressing up. It's not my skirt was not too short. My top was not too tight. Jesus was not a poor man, okay? You guys go listen to Pastor Alan Nolan. All his disciples were rich. Why do you think they needed Judas to handle the money? Because they were rich. They had so much money. They needed someone to handle the money. That's why Jesus said, go without money, go without cloak. Because God said, Jesus wants them to trust without having money. Anyway, they lived in a house. Jesus, wasn't poor. So they believed in being poor and looking poor. Okay, so I went there to say that I don't like, you can have your little preachers and big preachers, whoever you feeds you, because you're a body part that is different than an eyeball. If you're a thumb, your needs are not the same as an eyeball. Your nose doesn't have the same needs as your foot. So why are you going to make your foot do the same things that your nose wants to do or can only do? And you're trying to make your nose do something the foot can do only. You cannot do that. If that body needs this, it goes to that preacher, teacher. If the foot needs that, that foot goes to that preacher, teacher. That's why God has all kinds. You can't be a thumb and say to the eye, preacher, I'm going to poke your eye out. You're wrong. It's only the thumb doctrine. It's only the thumb doctrine. And you're going to hell if you're going to believe the eyeball doctrine. Do you see what I mean? It's division. It's wicked. A house divided against itself cannot stand. And you know what a house is? The church. Do you know what the church is? The church is the body. So the body divided against itself cannot stand. You guys, this scares me. This is a very new revelation to me. I always knew I hated division, but this past video I made, maybe the last two videos, maybe the other videos leading up to the last two videos where I'm getting aggravated, it's not right. I don't think it's right. And I'm just saying, I'm making this video because it kind of freaked me out when I saw that pastor in his panel. And I know he's a King James Bible only believer, but I'm not. You cannot put God in a box and say to the nose, You're not allowed to read any other version, even though you don't understand what this eyeball or this foot understands. I'm going to make you read the King James. Okay, if you can understand that analogy, I'm going to let you go now. God bless you. And I hope you find this. I mean, I'm getting sad, y'all. I'm getting sad. And I'm getting a little nervous. The rapture's coming. And, this division is of the devil. If you ask me, I think it's of the devil. It's okay to disagree. It's okay to disagree with a certain preacher. But do not cast it out. You could be casting out a body member. You're casting out an eyeball that it doesn't have the same need as what you're saying is the only way. The only way to feed the body, you're saying, is through the thumb. It's not the only way to feed the body. There's only one gospel. Yes. If those different ministries are teaching the gospel, Christ only alone, through salvation, through grace, through faith, if they're teaching and preaching that, please leave them alone. Please leave them alone, because you're messing with the body. You're trying to divide up the body, and you're trying to say only one thing can be fed in that body, and it's only the eyeball, and you have to cast all the other ones out. And please, we have to stop, because the rapture is coming. The rapture is coming, and I don't know what Jesus is going to think of this. Okay? I don't think Jesus is going to like this. Okay, let me straighten up. It's probably going to give a weird picture for my thumbnail. All right, bye, you guys. Bye.